As he approached the principal's office, he noticed some pretty schoolgirls walking around the school compound. Lost in thought while watching them, he accidentally struck his leg against a stone. He was the golden child, born after 7 daughters. His arrival was celebrated like a grand festival in the Udoka's household. His name is Nnamdi. His father, Mr. Udoka, a wealthy businessman in Lagos, saw him as the long-awaited heir to carry on the family's name. From a young age, he was showered with attention, toys, and luxury. His sisters adored him, but their mother's efforts to instill discipline were often thwarted by their father. "Can you leave that boy alone?" Mr. Udoka would say whenever his wife tried to correct him. "Children will always be children. Boys will always be boys. Please don't disturb that boy again." By the time Nnamdi turned 16, he had mastered the art of exploiting his father's indulgence to get whatever he wanted. One day, while playing football in the living room, he accidentally broke an expensive vase. When his mother began to scold him, Mr. Udoka rushed in before she could finish. "Why are you shouting as if you are out of your mind, woman? Why are you talking to him like that?" he demanded. "It's just a vase. I'll buy another one." He shot his wife a warning glance, effectively silencing her. Nnamdi's arrogance kept growing. One day he demanded a brand new PlayStation. When his mother hesitated, he went to his father. "Daddy, I need it," he said, pretending to be sad. "My friends at school will laugh at me if I don't have it. They all have one." The next day, a driver delivered the console to their house. Nnamdi was overjoyed. "Thank you, Dad. You're the best," he exclaimed. Mr. Udoka had a habit of bringing different women into their home whenever his wife traveled. The house staff had long grown used to his escapades, but his youngest son, Nnamdi, watched with growing curiosity. One evening, as the house settled into silence, Nnamdi crept out of his room when he heard loud laughter and clinking glasses coming from the living room. Peeking through the slightly open door, he saw his father on the couch, arm around a woman who wasn't his wife. They were laughing, their voices filling the house with an unsettling cheer. Nnamdi didn't understand much, but he knew something wasn't right. Night after night, he would sneak out and watch his young mind trying to piece together what his father's action meant. One night, Udoka caught him. He noticed the small shadow by the door and turned to find Nnamdi staring. For a moment, there was silence. Then Udoka chuckled and beckoned him closer. "Come here, Nnamdi," he said, his voice warm but firm. Nnamdi hesitated, then stepped into the room, his eyes darting between his father and the woman. Udoka placed a hand on his son's shoulder and said, "You're too young to understand this now, but one day, when you're a man, you will." Nnamdi nodded. Though he didn't fully comprehend the meaning of his father's words, he returned to his room, confused but trusting the man he looked up to. One day, Nnamdi was standing by the gate of their house when he saw a young woman hugging bananas. He called her over and invited her into their compound, promising her gifts and goodies if she agreed to spend time with him. She followed him to his room and they were together for some time. 2 months later, the young woman's parents came to Udoka's home, reporting that their daughter was pregnant and claiming Nnamdi was responsible. Mrs. Udoka was furious with Nnamdi, but his father dismissed her anger. "Leave that boy alone," Mr. Udoka said firmly. He promised the girl's parents he would take care of her throughout the pregnancy and provide support afterwards. However, he insisted the girl should stay with her parents during that time. True to his word, Mr. Udoka fulfilled his promise, ensuring the young woman was cared for during and after her pregnancy. By the time Nnamdi entered university, he had already adopted his father's habits. He was known as the prince. He drove flashy cars and hosted extravagant parties. Girls were drawn to him, captivated by his charm and the allure of luxury. 4 years after, Nnamdi graduated from the university. He stood tall on the stage, his heart racing with excitement as he wore his graduation gown. The air was filled with pride and joy, and his face beamed as he looked out at the crowd. It was a grand ceremony, one that marked the end of his university journey and the beginning of something new. His parents, Mr. and Mrs. Udoka, were seated in the front row, beaming with pride. Mr. Udoka, with his usual air of confidence, clapped loudly for his son. Mrs. Udoka, her eyes glistening with tears of joy, held her husband's hand tightly. "Look at him, Ngozi," Mr. Udoka whispered, his voice full of admiration. "Our son has made us proud." Mrs. Udoka smiled, though her heart was a bit heavy. She had always worried about Nnamdi's future, especially with his carefree attitude towards life. As the ceremony ended and the family gathered for photos, she pulled Nnamdi aside. "Nnamdi," she began gently, "I know you are excited about the next phase, but remember to be careful during your NYSC. Stay focused, stay disciplined, and make us proud." Nnamdi nodded, his usual confidence shining through. "Don't worry, Mom, I'll be fine." But Mrs. Udoka wasn't fully convinced. "Just remember, your behavior matters. It's not just about having fun. The world is watching you." Before Nnamdi could respond, Mr. Udoka stepped in with a chuckle, placing a reassuring hand on his son's shoulder. "Ngozi, don't worry so much," he said with a warm smile. "Nnamdi is a smart young man. He knows how to behave himself." Mrs. Udoka sighed, but she trusts her husband's word. Even if she still has some lingering concerns, Mr. Udoka was confident that Nnamdi would handle himself well, just like he always had. As the family prepared for the next step, Nnamdi's upcoming NYSC service and the adventure that would follow, Mrs. Udoka quietly hoped that her son would live up to the promise of the proud moment that they had shared, making the most of his opportunity while staying true to the values she had always tried to teach him. The following day, Nnamdi departed for his NYSC orientation camp. Upon completing the program, he was assigned to a prestigious all-girls secondary school as a mathematics teacher. On his first day, Principal, a stern yet approachable woman, introduced him to the students during the morning assembly. "SS1 and SS2 ladies, this is Mr. Nnamdi, your new mathematics teacher. I expect you to show him the utmost respect and give him your full attention," she announced firmly. The students exchanged whispers, their eyes lightening up with curiosity and excitement. Nnamdi, tall, impeccably dressed and exuding confidence, carried himself with the air of someone who was fully aware of the admiration he attracted. During his classes, Nnamdi noticed a group of girls giggling and whispering at the back. One of them, bold and confident, often stayed behind after class under the guise of asking questions. However, her inquiries had little to do with mathematics. "Sir, do you have a girlfriend?" she asked one day, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Nnamdi chuckled and replied, "Focus on your studies. That's what matters." His tone was light-hearted, subtly encouraging her attention. Over time, Nnamdi began to recognize which students were vulnerable to his charm. He would compliment them softly, offer small gifts, and give extra attention during lessons. He knew the right words to make them feel special. "You're so smart," he would say with a smile. "You remind me of someone very dear to me." Weeks passed, and some of the girls became more attached. They lingered after class, giggling at his jokes, offering to carry his books, and complimenting his outfit. Before long, a few started finding excuses to visit him at the Corper lodge. Among them was Uju, a bold and striking senior student. One afternoon, she knocked on his door, claiming she needed help with her homework. Nnamdi hesitated, but eventually let her in. As they talked, their conversation drifted from academics to more personal topics. "Corper, you're too fine to be eating this canteen food. Uju teased, twinkling her nose at the half-eaten plate of beans on his table. Let me cook something better, something you will never forget. Before he could protest, Uju had rolled up her sleeves and taken over his small kitchen. Within an hour, the room was filled with tantalizing aroma of jollof rice. She served him with a triumphant smile, her presence leaving an indelible mark on the quiet afternoon. The following day, another senior girl named Nene found her way to Nnamdi's room. Unlike Uju, Nene was quiet, her charm lying in her shy smile and gentle demeanor. She offered to tidy up his room, folding his clothes neatly and sweeping the floor. You shouldn't live like this, she said softly, laughing as she straightened his bed. Let me help you keep things in order. Soon, this became a routine. After school hours, the girls would take turns sneaking into his room. Uju had made it clear that their interest extended beyond simple acts of kindness. To them, Nnamdi was a prize, a secret conquest, they whispered among themselves. At first, Nnamdi tried to rationalize the situation. He told himself it was harmless. After all, they were the ones coming to him. But as time went on, he began to enjoy the attention and flattery. The line between teacher and student blurred further with each visit. The seniors grew bolder, laughing and shouting loudly in his room, their presence becoming increasingly difficult to ignore or hide. One evening, after most of the staff had left, Uju lingered longer than usual. She sat close to Nnamdi, her hands occasionally brushing against his as they talked. You know, you are the most popular teacher in school, right? She said, her eyes glittering with mischief. Nnamdi chuckled, leaning back in his chair. Is that so? I hope it's for the right reasons. Uju leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a playful whisper. Of course, but you know, some of us seniors wouldn't mind keeping your room clean and your heart warm. He laughed nervously, but he didn't move away. Before he could respond, Uju leaned in and kissed him. The thrill of the moment was intoxicating, and though he knew it was wrong, Nnamdi couldn't deny that he liked what had just happened. For this video not to be too long, I have to end it here. Watch out for part 2. Please kindly like, share, and follow my YouTube channel for more inspiring stories. Bye.